The base is dropped on a very, very interesting Tuesday morning here in SDH land. Soccer Down here live August 6th. It's a U.S. Open Cup semifinal match day. Atlanta United in Orlando. Things have changed a little bit from when we left the show yesterday.
Yes.
Some interesting news has dropped this morning. We'll get into that here in just a minute. Some interesting news has dropped starting yesterday and again this morning when it comes to Wayne Rooney and DC United. And this is going to be the silliest of silly seasons on a lot of different fronts now. Let's get caught up on the two big stories of the day right now. First one, our friend Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic reports this morning, and Chris Furmeister of Pro Soccer USA is also on board with this report. Joseph Martinez did not travel to Orlando with Atlanta United, and adductor injury or abductor injury, I've seen it written both ways. Groin injury is a safe way to put it as well. That part is reported. That part is not confirmed. Nothing's honestly confirmed at this point. And I know a lot of people wonder why these things happen. Like, look, you're not going to confirm and say that your top scorer is not available. Like, that's not going to happen. So nothing's confirmed. He didn't travel, it appears. He's not going to play tonight. What does that mean? We'll get into that a lot today. There's going to be a lot to talk about in that regard. How does Frank de Boer figure this out? What options does he have? We'll kind of go through some of the different scenarios that we think are likely this morning. The other big bit of news, and it started breaking yesterday almost out of nowhere. Like, I had not really heard any real reports along these lines. The only report that even pointed to this type of thing happening, and we kind of took it as a joke, was a tabloid report saying that Wayne Rooney's wife was miserable in Washington and that she wanted to go home to England, and that was going to force Wayne Rooney to go back to England. And it's kind of one of those things you see, and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Well, could be some truth to that. Looks like Wayne Rooney will be leaving DC United at the end of the season to join Derby County as a player coach. An 18-month deal. TalkSport reported that just a little bit ago before we went live. TalkSport in the UK reported it 41 minutes ago that it will be an 18-month deal starting in January of 2020. He'll be a player coach under Philippe Cocu. Okay. He had 2 more years on his deal with DC United. So are they going to get a transfer fee? You would hope so. What is this going to look like? And now DC United, who Atlanta is battling with in the Eastern Conference, DC is in a really tricky spot at the moment because Russell Canales is out for an extended period of time. Chris Durkin was injured in their match on Sunday, and he is undergoing medical testing today to determine the extent of that. Now Wayne Rooney's leaving at the end of the year. You still have the Luciano Acosta stuff hanging over your head. And, oh, yeah, the transfer window closes tomorrow at 1 a.m. DC time. Oh.
You like apples?
Oh. And let me make sure I'm clarifying here. It's 11:59 Central Time on August the 7th. So that would technically be 12:59 on August the 8th on the East Coast. That has been confirmed by Major League Soccer. Now we know when that cutoff is. So it's not midnight Eastern, it's midnight Central. And I'm assuming that's because the U.S. Soccer Federation is based in Chicago, and where their office is where things go through first. It doesn't go through the league office. I know you think it does. Eventually it makes its way there, or it goes there first. But international transfer certificates, those types of things, that all goes through the Federation in Chicago. So it's a midnight Central deadline tomorrow night. DC's in a world of hurt. Atlanta could be in a world of hurt. Now, Felipe and Chris's reporting does not say that this is any kind of a serious injury. He did train yesterday. No one said anything about an injury occurring during training, him coming out of training early. There was no conversation around any of that. So I think it's a safe assumption that this is not a major injury. The problem that complicates it at the moment is Brandon Vasquez's injury because he is unavailable. Romario Williams, no longer here in Columbus. You don't have another true forward. Tito Villalba can be that. Tito Villalba's coming back from injury. And Frank de Boer said after the match on Saturday that Tito Villalba could be due for some minutes in Orlando. That's very different than could be available to start in Orlando. And that's what makes the lineup tonight really, really tricky. I know you guys have had a ton of questions. I know there's a bunch of tweets. We're going to get to them, and we're going to try to get as many of those as possible. It's another day where the show sheet has kind of been ripped up into shreds, thrown up in the air, and we're going to take it to the Twitters, and we'll get into all of that. But before, I know we're going to talk a lot of Atlanta United, but I want to get into this DC thing really quick with you, John, because I don't know how much we're going to get into it today.
Right.
Wayne Rooney has been what DC United needed from a big buzz signing. He's delivered on the field. By all accounts, he's been a great teammate. He's really thrown himself into being part of this league and part of that club. Now, family stuff, if that's what's taking him back, it's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the opportunity to start the coaching side, and it seems like that's something he wants to do. Very understandable. But now, DC needed Rooney to come in and get that buzz. Gone. Luciano Acosta, probably gone. Long term, not even getting into this year. Not even talking about how you deal with Canals and Durkin out. And maybe Acosta leaving tomorrow. It doesn't sound like it. Those things have kind of quieted down, but still a possibility. Long term for DC United. Now what?
Mm-hmm. And you had all of this buzz going into a new building. And you had international superstar, young talent, folks that could light up the scoreboard, leaving the Raccoons and going into Audi Field. And now folks have been posting the dog sipping coffee while the fire's around him gif in relation to Atlanta United. I think that would more apply to DC with what has happened over the last 12 to 16 hours or so. And this is one of the biggest tests that you could ever have for any franchise, regardless of sport, and for all of these dominoes to happen in this short a period of time. And later on, Sky caught up with Derby owner Mel Morris, and I've got that too.
But we've got an update now. Stephen Goff, just 15 minutes ago, has updated the story and confirmed it. Rooney will leave D.C. and return to England after this season. That is confirmed from the Washington Post.
And apparently, according to Derby owner Mel Morris, Cocu was the one who reached out as a part of all of this dynamic, which I thought was very interesting in all of this. But for DC to have all of these dominoes happening, boom, 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 this is the test of tests. I mean, this is the law exam going in and having cram for it now. This is far more than just an SAT. This is trying to pass the bar very, very quickly with limited study time. And so I want to see how DC reacts and responds to all of this stuff happening practically simultaneously.
Okay, so we have a couple of statements here, and DC did everything they could to try to make this work. Did not. Steve Kaplan and Jason Levy, the co-chairman of DC United, said, after speaking to Wayne and understanding his difficult situation of being so far away from his family, we have accepted that this is the best decision for all parties. Wayne is an exceptional leader and one of the most iconic players to play the game, so we look forward to his continued contributions to the team this season. Rooney, in a statement distributed by DC United, said, I remain fully focused on giving my all for the team for the rest of this season and repaying the support shown by the black and red faithful by hopefully delivering an MLS Cup to Audi Field. My time in Major League Soccer is something I will always be proud of. While the decision to move home was a tough one, family is everything to us, and we make this change to be closer to the ones we love back in England. The opportunity to go back home and start the next step of my career in coaching was the factor that made my mind up. I would like to thank everyone at DC United for the incredible support my family and I have received over my 2 seasons at the club. Now, short term and a little bit of long term, looks like the deal to bring Ola Kamara to DC United is done. The agreement was reached last week. Kamara was in DC this weekend. $2.5 million is going to be the transfer fee to Shenzhen in China. That will happen before the transfer window is done. Stephen Goff also said United is also seeking to secure additional acquisitions before the transfer and trade deadline late Wednesday night. And he mentioned in an earlier tweet about some of those possibilities. Yamil Asad was mentioned. They have his rights in Major League Soccer. Jose Francisco Torres, out of contract, so he is available on a free, and he would solve some of those holding midfield issues in the short term and maybe more in the long term. Mateo Garcia and Danny Williams, another defensive midfielder, were also mentioned. So Ola Kamara replaces Rooney up top in the long term. Not the name, but production. Ola Kamara's been that in this league. Can he still be that? We'll have to see. Short term, you got to get somebody to play in the holding midfield because this is not a deep team. And this is a team that is a cup contender. 100% a cup contender. But not without Canals and Durkin. So you've got to figure that out. My guess is you sign whichever one you're more comfortable with and can get on an easier negotiation, Torres or Williams. They would solve the short-term problem and be somebody you could have for a little while as well. The Luciano Acosta part, you've got to just kind of swallow the bullet here and just take it. And if you don't bring him back, you can't bring him back. But you got to keep him for the rest of this year. I don't think you can run the risk of him going now and then having to figure it out, not with these questions. So DC has to kind of go all in for this year, and then you're going to have to figure it out quickly. So keep an eye on that in the Eastern Conference. There's going to be more, obviously, about this. There's going to be a lot of talk about this across the board. What I'm curious about is any kind of a transfer fee. I mean, I would think they'd be able to get something that then at least you can flip into GAM and then have some money to do on another designated player. You're going to have to figure something out because you can't let him walk on a free even if he's Wayne Rooney and he wants to go home to be closer to his family. Completely understood, and it's honestly the right thing to do. You're not going to look good by being a jerk in a situation, but you also got to take care of your business, and you've got to figure this out.
And that to me is, I wonder what that number could be.
I don't think it'll be huge.
No. Something low 7 figures, something like that. Nick Alifi and I got into it a little bit last night on Soccer Over There in just discussing the Rooney saga in general. And the one point that Nick and I reinforced is that the boss of the family is undefeated. And if this is in fact the case, and Colleen wanted to make sure that the kids were raised back home in the United Kingdom, then that's what's going to happen. And so for Koku to see this opportunity and for Derby County to know that there was an interest for Rooney to come back home, Koku reaches out apparently and just kind of kicks the tires on the idea. And Rooney is interested enough to where he ends up, and he's going to be a Ram starting in January. I think it's tremendous, obviously, for Wayne and the next part of his career. But you're looking at this from the DC United perspective, there are a lot of different dominoes that they're going to have to fix. And this is a lot of plates to spin simultaneously, and I want to see how long they can keep all of them spinning before one of them hits the floor.
Yeah, with this transfer window closing in less than 48 hours. It's it's going to be quite interesting. So stay tuned on all of that. We'll keep you posted if any more news drops. We do have some other transfer rumors to get into. We'll talk transfer window because there's going to be a lot going on the rest of the day and tomorrow in that regard. I want to kind of set the table for what teams are looking at. But we're going to take a break. We'll get into all of the Twitters right now after the break about Josef Martinez, his absence tonight. What options does Frank DeBoer have? What could the lineup look like in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal? We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Tuesday Thoughts edition of Soccer Down here. August 6th is the date. U.S. Open Cup semifinal is the match tonight. Atlanta United at Exploria Stadium in Central Florida facing Orlando City. Orlando City gets some potentially good news for them. Their daddy's not coming home tonight, Josef Martinez. It appears, and this is according to Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic and Chris Vermeister of Pro Soccer USA, that there is a slight injury. Josef Martinez did not travel, unavailable for this evening's match. Now what? And that is not an easy answer. There's not a like-for-like replacement. And obviously, I mean, let's be real here. There's not a like-for-like replacement for a Josef Martinez ever. There just isn't. Not going to happen. When you have a player like that, they're not easily replaced. Carlos Vela, not easily replaced. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, not easily replaced. When you have a player that scores the goals in the way that Josef does, they're not easily replaced. But how do you replace them? And this is something that I'm sure there's quite a few takes on. And let's get into the takes. Let's get into the tweets. Let's talk about what you guys are thinking on this, and we'll make this a workshop session. How about that?
Eichmann as a mock-up for the 352. He says the stars have aligned for the Lion Tamer to be released tonight. Starting from the back, is 3, LGP Miles and Escobar. And his 5, Miram, Barco Gressel, Nagby Remedi, with Tito and PT up top.
The problem is Tito's fitness. And in a perfect world, yes, that would probably be the most likely solution because it's easy. Tito Villalba has the most experience as a forward. out of your options of who's available. I would completely agree with that. However, he hasn't played in a long time. Red Bull Arena. Long time. That's a big ask. And when you get into a cup match, potentially 120-minute match, you know he can't finish it. I don't think he could get to 90. I don't know if he could get to 60. I don't think you can start him. I just don't. I don't think there's any way possible you can start Tito Villalba unless his fitness is so much further along than you think. I think it's too risky. So let's work backwards from that idea. So Eichmann has Tito and Pitti up top. What's the midfield and what's the back line?
Midfield, Miram Barco, Gressel, Nagbe, Remedi.
Okay.
Back, LGP, Miles, and Escobar.
Okay. All that sounds fine. I'm running through the options in my head of, okay, if you want to keep the same shape, and I think that's probably your best bet because I'm not expecting to see George Bello either, at least from the start. Maybe he's available off the bench, but I'm not expecting to see him from the start. I think you're going to keep the 3-5-2 because you don't have the pieces to play really anything else. And again, just so you guys know, because there was a lot of conversation about it yesterday, and we talked about it last week on Stoppage Time and throughout the show. 3-5-2, 3-4-3, it's not that different. Okay, it's not breaking news that it's very similar when you have Pity Martinez and Ezequiel Barco in there. Like it's just not. The movement is going to define how it looks, and it can easily look like a 3-4-3. It can look like a 3-5-2. It can look like a 3-2-4-1. It can look like a 3-4-2-1. We can keep picking out numbers and putting them in spots and putting dashes in between. Doesn't matter. It's about some of the basics of it, and in this shape, in this idea of where your team is right now, you're going to have to play 3 center backs. You're going to have to play something resembling 3 central midfielders. And you're going to have to play something, and when I say resembling, I'm really meaning resembling in this one, 2 forwards. That it's going to be rough like that, and then you've got wingers, wing backs, depending on where they are in the shape, depending on what's happening in the match. It's going to be tricky here because now you don't have a true forward. Pity Martinez plays as a second forward. He's going to drop off. He's not going to lead the line. All right? Joseph would lead the line. Barco, you put him up there. Same thing. He wants to drop off. His natural inclination is to drop off. Tito Villalba, I'm assuming, is not going to be able to give you more than 45 minutes. And that might even be stretching it. I hope. I'm not assuming he can give you more. I hope he can. Not assuming it. You don't have a lot of clear-cut options. This is going to have to be creative. This is going to have to be one of these situations where I think Frank de Boer is going to be going on his gut in a lot of this. I think he's going to be going on what he's seen in training. Who can give you tactically some of the same things that Joseph Martinez gives you with positioning? You don't have another guy who's going to score as many goals as Joseph, but who can keep some continuity here in the way you've been playing. And the thing that helps you in that regard is Joseph hasn't been playing as a number 9 target forward because you don't have anybody who could give you that. He hasn't been just standing on the back shoulder and looking to make runs off the back shoulder of the center backs or splitting the defenders like he did in 2017. He's doing more than that. That helps you a lot when you're trying to figure this out because Pity Martinez can do that. Ezequiel Barco can do that and drop into the midfield and combine and then make runs. Now, the positioning is going to be different. And those two, it's a little trickier because I think they're so much more comfortable doing other things. Tito Villalba, again, would be the obvious one, and he would be one who could stretch the field a little bit. Doesn't look like he's going to be possible. Julian Gressel played up top in college. Probably a little bit more in college as a number 9. I don't think his movement off the ball would give you a lot of the same things that Joseph Martinez does. but he would maybe give you more of a true bigger frame up top if you want to play in that way. Justin Merrim has played some forward. He played as a second forward with Orlando. Honestly, probably more there than anywhere else with Orlando. It's not his best position. His best position is out wide, but he has played it. He played up top with Dom Dwyer, so he was functioning more in the Pity Martinez type of role. I think Justin Merrim is your best option. More and more we dig into this, and the more and more I think about it and the way that he plays, I feel like Justin Merrim could be your absolute best option here to get this done. It's not going to be easy no matter which way you go. I think Trooper might have been chiming in a little bit there. Trooper's a big Justin Merrim fan.
He is. Trooper's agreeing with you, but Under the Weather has a question.
Okay.
And it might be, and some of the points are the same that we've had this morning so far. And Under the Weather wants to know if you can bring someone up from the twos, and I know that a member of the show has wanted to release the Kanakimana as a part of all of this.
You could. They probably, and this is where it's very tricky because you have I believe it's 48 hours before kick. It might be 24. I will check in the break on this. You have to submit a preliminary roster, and then those are the only players you can choose for your 18. And I believe the preliminary is 22, if I am not mistaken. I'll get confirmation on that, and I'll get the deadline on it. My concern is that you were not planning on this. It happened in training yesterday, and if it was 48 hours, you weren't thinking about having anybody you could call up, and you can't make any changes. Been there, done that. We had a player who got ill in 2009 Open Cup and couldn't play, and somebody else went on the trip with us just to come support the team. They were not in that preliminary roster. They could not be added to the roster at that point. So you would have had to have planned for it a little bit. Now, they could have arranged a short-term loan, which you can do for Open Cup. It's different than the rules for MLS play where it has to be an emergency injury hardship situation. For Open Cup, for Campeones Cup, for friendlies, you can sign guys on a short-term loan from a USL contract and have them come up and play. But I think you would have had to do it before you knew about this injury. And Kanakimana, who, if you don't know, if you haven't been following the twos, he had a hat trick over the weekend. He has scored 6 goals in his last 3 matches. He's not a traditional number 9 either. He's a guy who's playing with a ton of confidence at the moment, and he's a guy that would be an absolute wild card if you threw him on. He can outrun anyone in Orlando's back line. He doesn't speak English much at all yet, and that would be a little difficult, although you do have people who could help, especially a player like Florentin Pogba, who speaks French, as Bienvenu Kanakimana does. So, could it work? I mean, it's the Cup. Anything can happen. Hashtag the magic of the Cup. But that would be a gigantic stretch. Is there anybody else? Not really. I mean, who would give you what you get out of Joseph? You're talking about, honestly, Jackson Conway's more of a true number 9 at Target, and he's 17, and that would be a huge ask for him. Patrick Okonkwo has not been starting regularly for the twos. I think he's been playing pretty well when we've seen him, but that's a big jump. I don't know. Kanakimana, and the trickier thing about it too, and this is the part I don't know, and I don't know who would know outside of the MLS League office. He's here on a loan. He's not here on a USL contract. So can you take a guy who's on loan to Atlanta United 2 and temporarily loan them to the MLS team for this type of game? That might not be possible. So it might be even more complicated than just the roster rules and all that stuff. That just went deep into the weeds, and I still don't have answers. So that's the best I can do when it comes to the twos. I don't think there's an easy one. Conway, Okonkwo would be the 2 from the twos that would be the easiest solution. I don't see it. Andrew Carlton is another one that would play that type of role like Pity Martinez, like Ezequiel Barco, where they're going to be looking to drop in. So that's going to be a little tricky for him to factor into that. That's really it when you look at Atlanta United 2 and possibilities there.
Natasha with a question. If Atlanta United is, quote, all in, end quote, on Open Cup, then why did Joseph play 90 against LA Galaxy if that meant he wouldn't be able to make the trip to Orlando for the semifinal tonight, especially with Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez injured?
I don't think that has anything to do with it. And this is what I was afraid of, was these types of comments about, well, now you're not all in on Open Cup. No one said that Joseph Martinez was not available to play in Orlando. Go back and read Joseph's comments. He was looking forward to playing in Orlando, folks.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing about him playing 90 minutes against the Galaxy on Saturday that took him out of playing for Orlando. It sounds like it was an injury yesterday at training. So, no. Atlanta is all in on Open Cup. You can't control these things. They happen sometimes. You know, this is the life. This is what happens. This is when opportunities present themselves. And, yeah, you don't have Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez, unless he's closer than we think, and it sure doesn't sound like it. So it happens. But, no, it has nothing to do with saying that Atlanta's not all in on Open Cup. And, yes, maybe you could have pulled Joseph Martinez after you get that third goal and give him 15 minutes off. I don't think that's going to affect anything. So, no, and I know this is going to start, and I know people are going to say it because they don't get how these things go down. Joseph Martinez picking up an injury in training on Monday doesn't have anything to do with Atlanta United not caring about winning the Open Cup. And you're not going to be able to go into a game with all the things that have been said between Atlanta and Orlando and not care. That's just not the case. And I can tell you, honestly, from things that, you know, the club looking forward to hosting a final, they would love to have a final at Mercedes-Benz with a chance to win a trophy. Another huge crowd. Another big opportunity for this club. There's no way they're not taking this seriously. So I get frustrated when those comments come up. The Open Cup is a big deal. It's a huge deal to this club. And an injury the day before in training, that has nothing to do with them not taking this tournament seriously. You also do have a league competition. And if he's injured, and could he play through it tonight? We don't know. I don't know what the injury is. Nobody seems to know for sure. Is it something that if you gave him an injection, could he play through it? Maybe.
Yeah, but then you're damaging the longer-term things.
So you have to find balance. That doesn't mean that you're not taking the Open Cup seriously. You do have another game on Sunday. So it's not that simple. And I'm going to push back, and I hope everybody else does too, because this club has shown you throughout the Open Cup, it's played first choice for the most part all the way through. It's taken this very seriously. Have there been other players rotated through? Yes. But it has not been wholesale changes in Open Cup. It's been treated very seriously. So, no, they didn't all of a sudden get to the semifinal and decide not to take it seriously. I completely and utterly disagree with that.
Michael Ruiz with his lineup thoughts, and it's all based on the lineup from the Galaxy match. LGP for Pogba, Pity to Joseph's spot. Gressel moves to where Pity was. Dion in for Gressel. Hyndman in for Larry, maybe ready for Larry.
Slow down. That's a lot to take in.
Yes, it is.
I don't like Pity to Joseph's spot because I don't think the movement's going to be the same. And you want to replicate that because then it's a more comfortable transition. I think Pity you want to keep in his role because it's working for him. I would move Gressel, Barco, Pereira, Merrim into the Joseph spot before I'd move Pity. And I'm not a big fan of Gressel central either. And you've got so many options central and fewer options out wide. I don't think you see Gressel inside today, unless for whatever reason you're going to play Escobar is a right wing back, and you're still going to keep the left wing back side as a Merrim or Pereira or Mo Adams situation, guys we've seen in that role in the last few games, that could maybe happen. But Pitti in the Joseph spot is probably the option I like the least.
Tafka says, well, it seems obvious who we should put up top. We already know he's hungry for this one, and then the Justin Merrim give.
That honestly does factor into it. I mean, how great of a story is that? You get Justin Merrim, who is incredibly motivated for this match, and now he gets an opportunity to lead the line against Orlando. And you think Justin Merrim isn't going to be running his head off and maybe talking his head off
%.
And looking for an opportunity to celebrate? Yeah, you're going to have a very jacked up Justin Merrim for this one. And he's going to have to manage that, because sometimes that can turn into a negative, and sometimes you can get yourself into a spot that you don't need to get yourself into because of that emotion. He's going to have to manage that. But the more that I look at it and the more that I think about it, I think he gives you as much of what you have with Joseph as anyone else in this team that's available to start. I do think the chances of seeing Tito Villalba are extremely high. I just don't think it's to start. And it's probably going to depend on where you are in the match as to how you play it. If you are behind, I think you see him probably in the 60-minute mark, and you try to get 30 minutes out of him to change it, even with the possibility of him not being able to play another 30 if it goes to extra time and you have to make a change there. One thing to keep in mind, 3 subs as normal, goes to extra time, you get an additional substitution. And you kind of have to factor that in to a degree here. So I think Tito will play, and I think it will depend on the situation when he comes in. I just don't think he's going to be able to start. I think Merrim is the guy probably out of who's available to start with the most experience in that type of role. Now, he played as the second forward next to Dom Dwyer in a 4-4-2 with Orlando during his time there. But when you go further back in Justin Merrim's history, when he was in Columbus, they played some 3-5-2. And he played as a forward in a 3-5-2. He paired up with Ola Kamara. But he's played in a role similar to this. And I think his movement is far more similar to Joseph. And he can drop in. He's strong enough to hold players off occasionally. Not great in the air, but competent. You're going to have more of what Joseph gives you than Pitti could or Barco could. I think Barco's a little more vital in a different role. I think you stick with the 3-5-2, and I think it's Justin Merrim up top.
Under the weather with another question. Honestly, haven't watched Disney FC much this year. What can we expect them to do at home against Atlanta? Press? Sit and counter? Both question mark.
They're a weird team, and they're a hard team to get your head around in a big way. I mean, let's go back to their match against Dallas. Let's pull up some information here and we'll talk through it. Nani's the danger man, and we know this. Nani is the player that you're going to be most concerned about from Orlando, and he did not play on the weekend. He came off the bench, sorry. He did not start on the weekend. They played a 4-3-3. And the way they played it was 3 more defensively minded central midfielders. It was Carlos Esquez, Sebastian Mendez, and Will Johnson. Johnson played pretty well in this one as well. Sasha Kljestan came on and then gave you a number 10, and he had a hand in the second goal. It was a beautiful pass to create that for Esquez. Do they go defensive here with 3 central midfielders? Or do they go with 2 and a Kljestan? I'm kind of guessing that they're going to go with Nani and Kljestan from the start. I'd be surprised if they hold Kljestan back. And I wonder for James O'Connor if the Joseph Martinez rumors and news don't have an effect on his mindset here.
Right.
I wonder if now, if he was maybe thinking, you know what, let's be a little defensive. Let's try to sit and counter. I wonder if now it's, you know what, let's just go for this. Let's open it up. Let's put them under pressure early. They're going to be questioning things. Let's go all guns blazing. And they have the attack to do it. Dom Dwyer's had a bad season. We've talked about it many, many times. He didn't really play that great on Saturday. Chris Mueller is a wild card. Very talented player, confident player, good 1v1 player, has good vision as well. Mueller's an unpredictable kind of player, which can be dangerous in games like this. Nani's Nani. We know what Nani brings to the table. He's one of the best players in the league. Tesho Akindele could play up top instead of Dom Dwyer, could play on that forward line with Dom Dwyer. Akindele got a goal on the weekend. Akindele is a big, athletic forward who can hurt you in a number of different ways. Let's talk about the defense. And this is where, coming back to the last time we saw Orlando, the player that scared me the most was Juan, the right back, who was the man of the match according to who scored for the Dallas match. He had an assist there, bombs up and down the wing, good speed, good 1v1 player. Whoever's on the left side is going to have to deal with that. Now, it's a very different ask than what we saw at LAFC when you were dealing with Carlos Vela, who didn't just stay on the right side. He's going to float. He's going to cut inside. He's going to switch sides. He's going to be everywhere. This task of dealing with Juan, for me, could mean Mo Adams starts at the left wing back role, because then it's more of a 1v1 straight-up matchup. You're not going to be able to move Juan over to the left side. He's not going to cut inside. He's a right back, but he's an attacking right back. Mo Adams is going to be much better positioned to deal with that than the threat of a Carlos Vela. I could see that scenario play out. Rest of the back line for Orlando, Joao Moutinho has been playing on the left side. Good score from him in the who scored in the match against Dallas. Not the most athletic, very technical, good passer. I do think that 1v1 defending is probably his weakest area, and he's definitely the weakest on the back line for Orlando in that regard. If he's your left back, I think you're trying to run at him a lot, and you're going to lean to that side, and you're going to want to get Julian Gressel coming down that side. You're going to want to get Pity Martinez flaring over there, get 2v1s, make Moutinho deal with some difficulties. Center backs are good. Sané's had a good season. Robin Janssen, good pickup. He gives them some leadership. He gives them some bite. They needed that. They didn't really have a presence last year except for a negative one. Janssen changes it. Asquez and Mendez, I think, are a very good pair in the central midfield. Asquez especially, just a big central midfielder who can cover tons of ground. Honestly, think Yaya Toure type of central midfielder who can get back and defend, can win balls out of the air, can get forward and be dangerous as well. Mendez is a player who I think will be a really good one for Orlando in the long run. He's had a good first season here in MLS, covers a ton of ground. So you've got two central midfielders that you could play behind a Sasha Kljestan, and they can protect him, but they can also get forward. They're not just going to sit and do nothing. They're going to be able to step up and help, and they're starting to build that relationship. It's not a bad Orlando team at all. It's a far more balanced Orlando team than we've ever seen, I think. I think it could end up being their best roster that they've ever had. And now when they get their new playmaker into the mix, who I do not expect to see tonight, but anything can happen. He hasn't played yet. They just got him in late last week. They're going to be a team that maybe does sneak into a playoff spot. Tonight's game feels like they're on that edge of, if they get a win, confidence is going to be soaring through the roof. Maybe that becomes a building block for them. You look at some other teams that could struggle down the stretch. Orlando could sneak in. Long term, I think they've put the right building blocks around it to build a good team. Tonight could be the one that kickstarts that effort. It won't be easy for Atlanta. Even if you had Joseph Martinez, it wouldn't be easy. This is a better Orlando team than we've generally seen. I thought they gave a good account of themselves at Mercedes-Benz Stadium earlier this year. But they do have weaknesses, and they do have areas you can attack. And for me, it's that left side. That's where I would be really focusing. And I would also be worried about Huon getting forward on the right side, and that's where I think Mo Adams could come into play. Let's take a break, come back, get more into the Twitter timeline, more Atlanta United questions about Orlando and the sounds like definite absence of Joseph Martinez tonight in the Open Cup semifinal. What does Frank DeBoer do? We'll keep trying to figure that out right after this.
The ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Final segment, hour number 1, SDH, August 6th, Open Cup semifinal tonight. Atlanta traveling to Orlando and traveling without Joseph Martinez. Slight injury picked up in training on Monday. It appears he will not be available tonight unless something dramatically changes and there is a quick flight to Central Florida on the horizon. Which
should he still not fly anyway and be down there to be a part of the team?
It's not high school, John. Like, why would that? What would that do?
No, just someone, because the image of him with the Garra, with the Red Bulls match, having that kind of support from your team leader. That's
yeah,
just
but if you got a game on Sunday and him getting treatment to be available to play that and not getting onto a plane and getting off of a plane, yeah, it's a short flight, but if you've got a groin or adductor or ab or whatever injury, because nobody really knows exactly what it is, there's no reason to aggravate it. I don't think that does anything for you. I think you got plenty of guys who can give you all of that and more. Leandro is not going to have any problems being strong-willed in this one.
No.
Franco Escobar, you want to go tell him that he can't give you that gara? You want to go tell Eric Rametti that he can't crack some skulls? Yeah, I think you're fine. You got enough players with a lot of personality to take care of this. And just like we talked about from the Orlando side, this could be that building block for them to kickstart them into a playoff run that would surprise people. If you're Atlanta United and you go down to Orlando without Joseph Martinez and you rally the troops and you get a win, you're going to be flying high coming back to see NYC on Sunday. And an NYC team that after their game in Utah, Dome Tarrant talked about being tired for 10 minutes in the post-game comments. Mm-hmm. Like, that was all he talked about. I mean, to the point that the staff are like, okay, last question. And Dome repeated himself again. Like, we're tired. Every time we come here, every East Coast team that comes to Utah, you see it every time. Like, man, okay. And then Maxi Morales might not play. He didn't play in Utah. He might not play against Houston on Thursday, and then they're going to be coming on a short rest. If Atlanta goes down to Orlando and does this without Joseph Martinez, Whew.
Mm-hmm.
That would be massive for the rest of the season on their side. So there's a lot on the line tonight beyond just the semifinal.
We have Twitters.
So let's get there.
Tafka. Injuries this season. : Bello. Ambrose.
Slow down.
Shea.
Bello all year. Ambrose for very long periods of time. Shea for most of the second half of the season.
Pogba
off and on, but yeah, he's been out for stretches, and he's been just trying to get fit, honestly, since he got here.
Barco.
Yep. You missed Barco for what? You thought you'd have him back for the Toronto game. So, Toronto game to the last one. How many games is that off the top of your head? 6?
6 weeks.
About?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tito.
Lots and lots of games. Yep.
Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez.
Games now, yeah.
Joseph.
Right now, yes.
Kevin Kratz.
All year.
Franco Escobar.
Early, and then again for a little short period of time. Yep, and that had a huge impact on how you had to start the season. I think that's a bigger injury than anybody wants to give it credit for, because you didn't get to start the way you wanted to, and it forced you to play in a different way, and you had to try to figure out that different way with no time with the team. It's one thing now. Okay, you have this injury to Joseph. All right. Frank DeBoer has seen enough training and enough games and enough of these guys, and he knows them well enough, because a situation like today, I mean, we can break out scouting film. We can go through attributes. We can go through ratings of back to goal and movement off the ball and goals in the 18. We can go through all that. A situation like today, a lot of it is cojones. A lot of it is going to be down to that. It's going to be down to who can step up. Marbles, as our friend in Major League 2 said. Who can step up in a situation like this when you are missing your talisman? Who's going to be big enough to do this? That's what it comes down to. Because it's almost like that penalty in a big moment where it's, all right, you know, who's going to take this? I got it, coach. I got it. Yeah, that's what you need here. And it feels like a moment for Justin Merrim. It feels like a good spot for him. I think he does give you the attributes you need, and I feel like he has the personality to do it. And that's as important as anything else with this, because it's not something you're going to be able to train. It's not something you would have trained for. It's not something that you prepare for, really. It's just something you've got to deal with. And you're in a better position now to deal with something like this, a very important piece of the team being out, because you've gotten to know these guys. You've gotten to see them in training, see how they interact, what combinations can work, as opposed to the Franco Escobar injury, day one of preseason. You don't know who has the cojones or the marbles or the grapefruits to step in and play the right back role in the 4-3-3 that you want to play. So you're figuring it out on the fly. That's difficult. That was a much bigger injury than gets talked about enough this season. The Escobar absence at the beginning was critical, and they've gotten through it. They've gotten around it. They've worked through it. They figured things out. This one will be easier to deal with in this match because of when it happens in the schedule.
Tafka also mentions injury number 11 in Chris Goslin.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't had him, like, pretty much, period. So the possible development of a Chris Goslin to where he could help you just hasn't happened at all, because he's been hurt. Been hurt, honestly, since last season, late last season. It's frustrating because he would have been one of those central midfielders that you could have turned to in situations this season, and he could have been useful. Don't have him. Not ready. Not even ready to really contribute with the twos. I mean, it almost feels like a wasted year. So it's tough, but it's also the life. It happens. You can do everything possible to try to prevent injuries. They are going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with it. And the depth of the squad has allowed you to deal with it to the point that you have.
Daniel Price says it about an hour ago.
Okay, go ahead and get Daniel's real quick, and we might have to let it marinate over the break.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He says, is it time to panic because I'm panicking, followed by two emojis. One is crying and one is the Home Alone shock emoji.
I mean, yeah, I get the reaction completely, but these things do happen. You've been lucky to not have any issues with Joseph with injuries this season. Not every team has been that lucky. You missed Joseph for some international play, but he hasn't been hurt. It's not that it was bound to happen, but, I mean, the chances are players are going to miss a game here and there. You wish it wasn't this one, and you wish it wasn't in this situation, especially where Joseph has fathered Orlando many, many times. But it is what it is.
Time for the stepfather to show up.
Yeah. I mean, are we going to start playing B-Rock in the Biz? Or no, what that was my baby daddy. That wasn't stepdaddy. Stepdaddy was Hitman Sammy Sam. Sorry. So we're gonna have to start playing Stepdaddy by Hitman Sammy Sam for whoever fathers Orlando tonight. Yeah, I just went deep into Atlanta hip hop, and everybody's probably like, "What? Huh?" It happens.
Use the Google machine, kids, and then follow it up with the YouTube machine.
You might want to make sure that it's you're not in a place where it's very
NSFW.
It could be. It very well could be. Yes. It's where you're at, though. You gotta get through it. You can't panic. I mean, fans panicking is one thing, and it's understandable. You can't panic in this situation if you're a team, though, because it's an opportunity. And these are what players who have been on the fringes, a Dion Pereira, for example. Dion Pereira would love to be playing more. Dion Pereira never got his chance at Watford to play more. He's here now. He's played well. Dion Pereira could go down in Atlanta United lore if he comes in, starts out wide because Merrim goes up top, or comes in off the bench, or Dion Pereira is a second forward. Crazier things have happened. And Dion Pereira carries this team to the next round. That's the opportunity that's here for guys like Pereira, for a guy like Mo Adams who can come in and be a huge part of a game like this. That's why you play these. And that's why these are so important. Because, okay, Joseph is down. You're not going to get back on the plane and fly back. You're going to play. Who is going to step up? Who is going to carry this team today? Who is going to be the one who makes it clear to everybody that they have to play this match with a knife between their teeth? Who's going to be that guy? Opportunity has presented itself. Who's going to take it? We'll find out tonight. Let's take a break. Get into more of the rumors around the transfer window closing, more on Wayne Rooney going to Derby County at the end of the MLS season, more on Atlanta United and Orlando, and more from you guys on Twitter right after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here. Whew, interesting day. Tuesday thoughts. Lots of thoughts. Joseph Martinez appears to be unavailable for Atlanta United tonight against Orlando City. Wayne Rooney's heading back to England at the end of the season. Transfer window closes at 1 a.m. Atlanta time tomorrow night. All kinds of things. I mentioned the Open Cup rules, and I want to make this very clear as to how they work. Teams entering the Open Cup. This is from Section 203 of the 2019 Open Cup Handbook. A. Teams entering the Open Cup shall use their official league roster as their Open Cup roster. Yada, yada, yada. Players on loan from another team or league may not be included on an Open Cup roster with the exception of the following. Loaned players originating from teams competing in leagues that are not active participants in the Open Cup. 2. Players on loan from other U.S. clubs for a period of greater than 90 days. 3. Players from teams who have been deemed ineligible for the current Open Cup competition due to the provisions of Section 202D and are loaned to the team exercising roster control pursuant to Section 202D. All right, that's all complicated. What that means is players who are under Atlanta United 2 contracts can be loaned to Atlanta United. They're eligible. Now, you do a short-term loan. It's doable with MLS. It all works out. All right, 5 international players as well. Okay, now here's where the thing about the Joseph situation plays in. 4 teams entering the tournament after all Open Division qualifying rounds have concluded, and that would be this one. 2 weeks prior to the first Open Cup round in which a team participates, that team shall submit to the Open Cup Commissioner its Open Cup roster. So you submit all that in. You do that way early. You can make changes throughout. For Open Cup matches, a team may add players to or drop them from its league roster under the league rules currently in place. Here's where the part you got to know. Any changes to a team's Open Cup roster must be communicated to the Open Cup Commissioner, and all clearances obtained, including approval from U.S. Soccer's Player Registration Department, no later than 2 p.m. Central on the first business day prior to any Open Cup match in order for such changes to be in effect for said match. So when it comes to a player like Bienvenido Kanakamana, which I don't even know is possible because he's on loan to Atlanta United too, but let's say that he is, a Jackson Conway, a Luis Fernando, any of your Atlanta United 2 players that you wanted to bring in, you had to make that happen before 3 o'clock yesterday. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but the chances of it happening are not all that likely. Wanted to make that point clear. It's not like you can just do whatever now because you want to. It's not that simple. Hope that makes sense.
Yes. There's a test later on.
Yeah, something like that.
Now, we have non-Atlanta United tweets, we have Atlanta United tweets, and then we have tweets having to do with the match tonight. Where would you like to go?
Wherever you want to go.
All right, so we'll go back to the top. Some of the stuff that Nick and I addressed last night on Soccer Over There. Let's go to Los Angeles. Michael Ruiz wanted to know about Alessandrini and wondering if he was going to be a TAM player with Pavone coming in.
Well, you'd have to sign him to a new deal. You'd have to extend his deal another year, and I think it's possible. The only thing that gives me pause is they didn't do that to keep Giovanni Dos Santos, and by all accounts, they tried to keep Giovanni Dos Santos. It wasn't that they had just decided, okay, we're not going to keep him, let's just buy him out and move on. They wanted to keep him, and they could not under MLS League rules. And I don't know why they didn't take the option at that time to sign Alessandrini to a new contract. It doesn't look like he's going to go on the season-ending injury list either, because he hasn't, and he's getting close to coming back. So the only way I see it happening is that. You add, I don't know how many years he's under contract, I'm not sure, but I know his cap hit was just over the TAM threshold. So it's close enough that I could see a scenario where you add a year or two to their deal. I mean, you're going to have to extend him and figure that part out when you get to it, but it's close enough to where you could make it fit. I mean, his guaranteed compensation is 1.8 for the season. His base is 1.539. The TAM threshold is 1.5. So that's close. Add a year, maybe add two. Stretch the money out a little bit, but he gets more guaranteed money over a period of time to get him get that base or guaranteed, whichever one affects it, under 1.5. It's possible. It's very, very possible.
Then the follow-up from Michael. Yeah. Then I'm still looking for creative bookkeeping and see how it ends up in Los Angeles.
Well, that's it. That's the only creative bookkeeping. There's nothing else. You can't do anything with Jonathan Dos Santos or Zlatan with the money they're on. There's nothing else you can do. And with Pavón, if the reports out of Argentina are correct and it's a $2 million loan fee, well, then no, there's nothing you can do.
The other question from Michael. How is ESPN still so cheap with all the content it has, with the Bundesliga reportedly coming into play next season?
ESPN Plus.
That, yes.
I don't know. We'll find out. But the amount of subscribers that they were trying to get, that's one reason that they can keep it cheap, because they have such a large pool of subscribers that the amount of money they're bringing in is making sense. But it's a business, and it will go up at some point. What I wonder is, does it just go up flat and it stays the same as it is right now, where you just pay a flat amount, you get everything that's on it? Or do they try to capitalize on all the soccer content and do a soccer-specific ESPN Plus at a certain price point or whatever? I'll be curious to see how they handle it, but it'll go up eventually. It's been great. It continues to be great. I think it can go up. There's room for it to go up and still be great.
Chiefs coach Steve, has anyone won Player of the Week or other of the week categories as a write-in candidate? Was Bedoya the first?
I believe he was. I don't know. I don't know that for sure, but I believe he was. And Jonathan Tannenwald of I'm trying to remember the name of the organization. If it's Soccer Writers, Soccer Reporters of America, I can't remember the acronym. The media vote is 75% of it. The player, or the fan vote is 25%. He won it on the media vote, which is pretty wild. Makes total sense. I mean, it was the right time and the right situation for that to happen, and he did play very well, by the way. It wasn't just because he yelled into the microphone. He played well. But, yeah, I think it might be the first time that it wasn't a player that was on the fan vote that won it.
Herschel Skywalker with a question that I think you can answer from the time that this particular individual has spent with you and Mike Conti on the full-time report. Has anyone asked Emerson Hyndman if he's happy with the move to MLS so far? Would love to know his thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yes. He talked about, coming to Atlanta and making that decision. I mean, he wanted to play, and he wasn't doing that before. And this was a situation that he knew about the fan base. He knew about the quality. He knew about the trophy last year. He knew where this club was. And I think he's fit in like a glove. And I think he's been nothing but happy in the way he fits into this team because they play the type of soccer that suits him. You know, I mean, Emerson Hyndman is a player who Frank DeBoer would value. He wants the ball. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's a good passer. He's comfortable in possession. He works hard. He can contribute in the attacking phase of play. He can contribute in the midfield. He can contribute defending. He's just a well-rounded player, and I think the only thing that he's been missing in his career is playing time. So for him to take that next leap to where he's potentially a national team player, building off of, you know, a team of the tournament type of performance in 2015 at the U20 World Cup, it's just playing time. He's just got to play. And if he wasn't going to get it at Bournemouth where he was, then he needs to come here and play. And I think Atlanta would love to make it a permanent thing. And the amount that they paid to get him here on loan, in my mind, would show you that they're not looking at this as a short-term thing. I think he's a long-term option.
Jamison Christie meant to ask this a while ago, but how do you feel about the women's national team not coming to Atlanta for a victory tour? What can Atlanta do to keep more women's national team or men's national team soccer matches?
I don't know the process for this. I don't know if it takes, you know, the Atlanta Sports Council making it more of a priority to chase these events. I don't know if it's something that, you know, the club chases. I think generally it isn't. It's more from a sports council or whatever, however each city is set up to bring in these types of games. But if it's not a priority, it needs to be one, because I think the women would, for a high-profile game, would do incredibly well. I mean, what are the last two games the women had here? They had the Netherlands at the Georgia Dome. They had Russia before that in a game that was actually moved back a day because of the ice storm or snowpocalypse or whatever it was. A big game on the women's side, you're drawing a huge crowd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. A men's game, same thing. The question is going to be grass over the turf, because I don't think the women, with the way things were positioned at the last World Cup, would ever agree to play on turf again. I don't think they can. I don't think they could take that PR hit, and they shouldn't. They've got to be careful about that. So you're going to have to put grass over the turf. Mexico didn't have a problem playing on the turf, and honestly, I think this turf, there's no problem, especially right now. It's almost brand new. Mexico didn't care. I don't think the U.S. women would play on it. I don't think the U.S. men would play on it. You'd have to put grass over it then. That is a pretty big expenditure. I mean, it's a pretty hefty six-figure expenditure. I think the crowd that they draw would be worth it, but that could be the pause.
Shiva wants to know, if you were to blame all of the injuries this year on something, would it be 1, bad luck, 2, travel and the MLS schedule, 3, being in so many competitions this year?
I think the injuries that Atlanta's had, bad luck. I mean, let's look at them. Escobar's day one of training. Barco and Tito are contact injuries. They're not overuse type of injuries.
Mikey
is tough because he had injuries last year too, so it's a little harder to figure.
Breck was competition.
Yeah, I mean, Breck could have happened anywhere.
Pogba's
had injury problems from day one, and he's just been trying to get fit as well because he didn't play since last May. So it's hard to really blame anything for him on anything else.
Barco was competition.
Barco was contact specifically, was getting kicked. So I think it's bad luck. I mean, I don't think these are the same type of injuries that maybe others have had. I don't think it's a whole bunch of hamstring or quad injuries where you worry about the travel and overuse. Those things take a toll. I mean, they don't make it any easier, and could they be a contributing factor to like a player like Mikey or Pogba or guys that are more muscular type of injuries? Yeah, they could be. But for Escobar, for Barco, for Tito, they didn't have anything to do with it. And I don't think they did for Brex either. So a lot of bad luck would be the number one thing. But it is a demanding schedule. And to at least a lesser extent, that does factor in. But I don't think that's been the number one cause of these injuries.
Jarrett was saying that in our conversations, Tito and Barco, it's because of players not being protected.
Well, you get these types of kicks all around the world. My issue is here it feels to be very, very common where players get kicked after delivering a ball or get kicked because they're on the ball a lot and there isn't enough protection for that. There's not enough cards. There's not enough, especially the after the ball stuff. Those are the ones that drive me nuts. When Barco beats a player, delivers a pass, and then gets clipped from behind or gets kicked late, ball's gone, referee's not calling the foul because it's advantage, but then nothing happens afterwards. Those are the ones that'll drive me crazy every single time. It happened to Pitti a lot this season. It's happened to Barco a lot. Those are the ones that referees have to get better at dealing with. They have to.
Don't forget to vote on the J. Bailey 86. The Bailey Daily has the Copa Especial up and running. So don't forget to vote on that. Same parameters as always.
We will get a revised prediction from Doug Robertson. Doug is traveling this morning, so we weren't going to be able to get him on the show live. And we, did an interview with him yesterday afternoon after training. Everything looked great. And then, probably need to change that. Probably not accurate anymore. So
sometimes it may be good.
Yeah, sometimes maybe. We'll get a revised prediction from Doug before the game goes live. One thing about the international players, and I've seen a lot of this conversation, 5 international players are eligible tonight. Atlanta United has 6 on the roster. Barco, Escobar, Pitti, Pereira, Pogba, Remedi. One of those 6 cannot play tonight. That's another thing to keep in mind.
Josh Airy with an Orlando question that might have been addressed in hour number 1.
Okay.
Good morning from Orlando! Exclamation point. It's Atlanta United's first time playing against Nani. How does Orlando City combine him and the other front men, and how do you contain him?
Nani's the one that's intriguing for me because I know there was a lot of conversation when that signing happened, like, this is a terrible signing. What's Orlando doing? I was a little more positive on it, and honestly, one thing that made me more positive about it was his performance in 2016 at the European Championships when Ronaldo went down. Nani was never a player who struck me as somebody who would put the team on his back. Like, his time at Manchester United, I thought he was a good player. Very good player. But that was kind of it. I didn't know what kind of intestinal fortitude he had to pull a Mick Foley line. Or no, testicular fortitude would be
testicular fortitude.
Let's go with that. I didn't know how much of that he had until that tournament. He's going to be the one that drives this team emotionally today. But, and I've seen some comments about this from Orlando fans that, Justin Merrim playing this way, playing with a lot of anger, with a lot of this, that's bad for Justin Merrim. Do we remember Nani basically having a hissy fit when he didn't get a call after he took a dive earlier this season? He's another one that the emotions of the match, he's going to have to manage. I think when you look at the way they play, I'm curious to see who plays up front in that line of 3 with Nani. Is it Akindelli or Dwyer in the middle? Is it Mueller or Akindelli on the right side? That's going to affect it. If it's Dwyer and Akindelli together with Nani becomes more of a true playmaker. He's going to look to cut inside a lot. Dwyer and Akindele play more like two forwards, like a pair up top. If it's Mueller and Nani, you're going to be looking to stretch the field a little bit more with them, and it's going to be more of a number 9 with two wingers on either side. That's what I'm looking for lineup-wise. I want to see what James O'Connor goes with in that regard. Or does he go with something completely different? And look, that's always a possibility when you get into these moments. James O'Connor hasn't been in a lot of these moments. He hasn't been. So how does he choose to handle it? Here's how he chose to handle it when they came to Mercedes-Benz. Now, one, they rotated. Keep that in mind. Nani didn't make that trip. But they came in and played a 3-5-2. And the way they did it, very much like a 5-3-2. It was Akindele and Dwyer up top. It was Mendez, Johnson, Higuita, because Asquez didn't make the trip either. So 3 central midfielders, more defensive. Juan on the right, Moutinho on the left, and 3 center backs. Now, there's questions about Alex Dijon, who's coming off of concussion protocol. Would he be available to be a third center back for Orlando tonight? Maybe. I don't know if Kamal Miller would get the start, although he did play pretty well against Atlanta earlier this season. Do they go 3-5-2? I don't think they do at home, but it's a Cup semifinal. You're not worrying about being pretty here. You're worrying about surviving. Maybe they do. Maybe James O'Connor does get a little conservative in this one. That's also a possibility. If they did that, I think then you would see Nani play in front of Mendez and Asquez with Dwyer and Akindele up top, and Nani would be factoring in as a true number 10 at that point. For me, it's the combination of the unpredictability of Nani along with Juan on the right side. Those are the biggest fears for me. And other than that, it's just a solid team. Not a bad team, a solid team. I think their biggest weakness is defending on the left side with Moutinho.
Snowman posting a Tito Villalba gif is saying that Tito will finish them off at the end. So that's, I guess, his end prediction to all of it without a score.
Yeah, and I want to be clear because I've seen a lot of people getting riled up about this because it's what we do. We get riled up. I think Tito factors in today. I just don't think he's going to be available to start, and you're not thinking about this in a vacuum. You have to look at it with the possibility of going 120 minutes. Tito hasn't played since the Red Bulls match away. I think it's unlikely he's got more than 45 minutes in him, let alone 60, 90, 120. In my mind, you would be better off being secure, playing a Merrim up top. There's other options you could play up top, but let's go with that one right now. I think you're in a good spot tonight to start with a lineup like this. LGP, Robinson, Escobar. Mo Adams on the left side, primarily to deal with Juan. Gressel on the right side. Midfield, Remedi, I think, is in for sure. Nagbe, Barco, Pitti, and Merrim up top. Now, another way you could play it, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit, would be Escobar on the left side and Parkhurst as a center back. I don't think Pogba's going to be ready to come back again after he's only played 90 minutes twice this season. The other time was in Vancouver. Is he going to be ready to turn around? Maybe. I don't know if you have to. I don't think you have to rush it. You'd love to have Parkhurst's veteran leadership in this situation. So you get Parkhurst as one of 3 center backs. You move Escobar over to the left, again, to deal with Juan, but also to get forward when he can. He'd give you more going forward than Adams would. You have to factor in Juan. I think you do have to worry about him. And if you go with the midfield to secure things, okay, Remedi, Nagbe, you could play Remedi, Nagbe, and Heinemann, and then you're looking at, do you just go with almost two false nines with Pitti and Merrim, or Pitti and Barco, or Merrim and Barco, however you want to shape it out. And then you're looking at growing into the game, keeping it secure. 60-minute mark. If you let's say you go very secure. Let's say you go with Mo Adams. You keep Escobar as a center back. You sit Pitti. Let's say you go Barco and Merrim. Or you go Merrim and Pitti, and you sit Barco, because, again, you're trying to get him back fully fit. All right. 60-minute mark, you bring on either Barco or Pitti. Maybe 75-minute mark, you bring on Tito. You've got then game-changing options off the bench to run at a tired team. And that could be the play tonight. Stretch the game out, manage the game, extend it, and then bring on your playmakers to kill it late. That might be your best play tonight. It's going to be really, really fascinating to see how this plays out. Let's take a break here. We've got a ton more tweets, I'm assuming, and we will get to those right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Tuesday thoughts and lots of thoughts. Joseph Martinez. Unavailable tonight for Atlanta United and Orlando. What does that mean? How do they handle it? Lots of ideas as to how this could look for Atlanta. We'll get into more of those as we go, but we've got a little bit of news to talk about.
Uh-oh.
Inter Miami signs Venezuelan youth international Christian Macun ahead of the 2020 season. U20 Venezuela captain is the third signing for Inter Miami. 19 years old, plays defensive midfield, can play center back as well. He's at Zamora in Venezuela's first division, and he's been added to the roster. Paul McDonough said, Christian is a grounded player of great character and maturity. He has shown us that he strives to represent himself and his home country at the highest level, and this is the mindset we want to build at Inter Miami. He's a lefty. He recently returned to Venezuela after being on loan with Juventus for the 2018-19 season. 21 appearances for Juventus, scoring 3 goals for the U23 team. 13 regular season matches with the U23, 7 in the UEFA Youth League, 1 in the Coppa Italia. Very good signing there. Made 2 appearances in the 2017 FIFA U20 World Cup, where he would have been 17 years old. One of the younger players in that U20 team that went to the final that Jose Hernandez was part of. So Christian Macun, Venezuelan U20 captain, is another Inter Miami player, and now they have 3 on the books.
You want to head back into the Twitters?
Let's do it.
All right. Tim, who for some reason, and maybe this is accurate to his current situation, his Twitter handle is Tim is hiding.
Okay, I hope it's okay.
Yeah. Posted a lineup, but then he had a public service announcement for @Twitter.
Uh-oh.
Side note, Twitter needs to recognize when we're trying to post soccer lineups in tweets and give us formation options in a drop-down.
Very true. I like this idea.
4-card Ahmed had the...
well, what was... Tim's hiding. What was the lineup?
Okay. Gazan and net.
Okay, I think we can all agree on that.
LGP, Miles, and Parkey.
Okay.
Then the 5, Miram, Heineman, Gressel, Remedi, Nagby.
Miram, Heineman, Gressel, Remedi, Nagby. Okay.
And then Barco and PT up top.
It's possible. I mean, you could go that way. That would be another way to try to find continuity, but the difference would be you'd be asking Barco or Pitti to do things that are not as natural to them to be in that Joseph Martinez role. Doesn't mean it couldn't work. Doesn't mean that either one couldn't get it. I think it's a little more of a stretch than a Merrim in that role. I think Barco would probably be the next one who could play it. Would it take them away from what they are best at? And then the other question is, okay, if you just decide, look, we don't have anybody who can play that role, we're going to do it differently, could you essentially play dual false nines? You're going to have to try to stay out of each other's way if you have Barco and Pitti up top wanting to do a lot of the similar things. That would be the only tricky element to it. It could be something that honestly looks kind of rough for the first 15, 20 minutes as everybody's trying to figure it out, and it could snap into place. That's what happens in cup games. I mean, we've all seen it if you followed the game. You get into some of these situations, you get into a moment where you've got injuries, you've got players suspended, you don't have a like-for-like replacement, you don't really have a true replacement, and you're figuring it out on the fly, and you just have to try to put the right pieces together to get something out of it. And it might not look right, it might be strange, it might be awkward, it still might get the job done. Doesn't mean it's something you're going to go to again on a regular basis. It might just be the right situation for tonight. Could that mean Barco and Pitti up top? It could. I think Barco, you are thinking about fitness. I don't see Barco as a player who can give you 120 minutes tonight. You might not need it, but you do have to think about that. And if Barco and Tito, for example, share the time, then maybe that works. Pitti gave you 90 over the weekend. Is he ready to give you 90 in this one? Again, can he be effective for 90s? Maybe the bigger question. That's another one to keep in mind here. You do have a really interesting dilemma, too, with that international situation. The more and more I think about it, you're looking at who you're going to leave out of your 6 internationals. I think it comes down to Pereira and Pogba. And I think Pogba is the odd man out because you have other options like Parkhurst, like Lorenowitz, who can play there. Pereira could be really important with Joseph's absence and maybe moving Miram up top. Pereira could be really important with Barco and Pitti possibly not able to give you 90 or 120 minutes. I think Pereira has to be in the 18 tonight, and Pogba might be the international who is left out.
Ryan thinks that he sees Heineman getting the start and Tito coming in off the bench.
I think Tito's off the bench, and I wish it wasn't the case, but I just don't see Tito Villalba going from no playing since when I'm trying to scroll back, May 19th, to now starting in an Open Cup semifinal. 3 months later, almost. It's a big, big ask, y'all. I don't think Tito's going to be able to give you that, and you run a risk of him getting 30 minutes in and running out of gas or having to make a sub at halftime. Subs become more precious in these knockout games. You've got to get them right. I think you're better if you've decided, all right, Tito is the one who can win this game for us. Period. He's the one. All right. It's a valid assumption to make. When is he going to be best suited to do that? Is it going to be starting the match and only going 45? Could be. Okay, then do it. And just know that at 45, that's when you turn to, if it's Barco, if it's Merrim, whatever, that's what you do. Or do you make the decision that, you know what, we're going to hedge our bets a little bit. Tito's going to come in at 60. We're going to run this team. We're going to get them. We're going to get possession. We're going to make them work. We're going to wear them down, and we're going to bring on Tito to split the gaps, stretch the field, and put the game away in the final 30 minutes. And then if it goes into extra time, we get an additional sub. We might have to pull him there. Maybe, maybe not. Another thing, honestly, you got to think about penalties. Tito's a player that you want taking a penalty. There's no way he starts and finishes the game if it goes 120 and goes to penalties. No way at all. I think if you bring him on in the second half, he could get to penalties, but he could also be more effective there. So I'm leaning that way. If it's Heineman who gets the start instead, that's possible. I think there's just so many questions about the way it plays out. Do you go to the three central midfielders like Heineman, Remedi, Nagbe, or Mo Adams into that scenario, whatever, instead of a number 10 there, and essentially play 2 10s in a lot of ways up top with Pitti and Barco? You could. There's not an easy solution here. What I can see happening is whatever the lineup that is chosen, whenever it's announced, everybody freaks out about something because it's going to have to be something that causes people to freak out. I just don't think there's an easy solution.
Katie Weaver with an idea. Could this be like when Rooney was out versus Atlanta and Lucho played up top, or Barco is Lucho in the scenario? Hashtag Overreaction Tuesday.
It's a little different because of the difference in the way the teams play. Now, let's take the full scenario here, because we talked about this on Stoppage Time last week, and I brought up that the 3-5-2 with Pitti as a second forward, with Barco as a 10, in a lot of ways played like DC United's 3-4-3, because you had your wingers tucked in underneath your forward. Now, I was talking about that in the way that DC played with Wayne Rooney as the 9, and Lucho, Lucas Rodriguez, sometimes you saw Zoltan Stieber in that situation. Paul Areola has played in that situation, tucking inside. Okay. When DC did it here, they still played the 3-4-3. It was Lucho as the 9, Lucas Rodriguez and Paul Areola tucking inside as the 2 attacking midfielders that were sort of like dual 10s, but they were really wide players. Now, Katie is suggesting who in the Lucho role?
Barco.
So you put Barco there. Pitti would be one of the players who tucks in underneath. Who would be the other one?
That is an unanswered question. Katie just said
yeah, no,
Barco.
I'm thinking through it. I'm thinking who would be the most likely there. Merrim, Pereira, I think are possibilities. I don't think Gressel, although we have seen him in those roles. I just think he's better out wide. But if you want to play Escobar on that side, on the right, you could bring Gressel inside. You could play a Heineman in that type of role. Yeah, that could work too. Yeah, it's fascinating when you really get into it. Could Barco play the 9 role like Lucho did for DC? I think he could. I think he's a smart enough player. We just haven't ever seen it. You know, that's a true false 9. I mean, that's not an easy thing to snap into. And it's not really something that he's done. The way Atlanta's played, the difference is that Atlanta has had a number 9 who functions as a number 9 in Joseph, a number 9 who's dropping in far more this time and doing some of the false 9 elements. So maybe it's not as big of a transition for a Joseph to play in that type of role, but for a Barco, it's possible. It is. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. I think then you get into the question of, okay, Pitty's going to be one of the guys who tucks in. Who's the other? Is it Merrim? Is it Pereira? My gut, because of my concern about Huon, would be Merrim in that situation then, because I want either Escobar or Mo Adams as the left wing back tonight because of what Huon can do to you attacking. And it's just such a more obvious way to deal with this time than it was against LAFC with Vela, because he's going to move around. This time, you know where Huon's going to be, and you know what side he's coming down, and you know he's going to do it. So you've got to be able to defend it. Adams or Escobar would be the option at left wing back for me. So then that does create a space for Merrim to either play up top or to play in that type of role if you moved Barco into a false 9 type of role.
Daniel Price has a name that we haven't mentioned at all this morning as a part of his 5 in his 3-5-2, Andrew Carlton.
It's possible, and that would be a role that could suit Andrew Carlton actually really well. I thought Andrew played really well for the Twos on Friday night. Thought he had a good night. Thought he was very close to making a bunch of goals happen. He created a number of chances. He had a couple of good chances himself that forced saves. Yeah, you talk about opportunity, and you talk about what the cup can bring you. Well, if Andrew Carlton gets this opportunity, it's on a silver platter for him, and you can 100% change the trajectory of your season with it. That would be an amazing story, wouldn't it? And when you look at that possibility, if there's any questions about, okay, I want to bring Merrim off the bench because he did a lot on Saturday. I want to manage the emotion that he's going to have in this one. I mean, you go with the swaggiest of swaggy front threes of Barco, Pitty, and Carlton. Whew! The moves that would happen with that. That's incredibly risky because you've got 3 guys that are all going to be trying stuff. And I think Barco would be the one who would probably sacrifice some of that to fill the role that the team needs to free up Pitty and Carlton to do it. But, man, that would be I would be here for that. I would be here for that. I'd be pretty excited about it.
Nathan Pugh, Merrim through the middle only increases his chances of scoring and ruining Orlando's evening.
Oh, if Justin Merrim gets a goal in this scenario, I mean,
1,000,000%.
Even if he'd gotten a goal with Joseph Martinez in the team, it would have been amazing. But now with Joseph out and you need somebody to step up and you're in Orlando and it's an Open Cup semifinal, if Justin Merrim gets the goal that sends Atlanta to the final in Orlando, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Make sure he's got police protection. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, make sure that bus is double reinforced.
Yeah.
Chris Kilroy wanted to thank you for helping us out in processing our shock and grief with Joseph out.
No, I'm processing it too. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out as a group. We're workshopping this morning, and I think what we've learned is there's just a lot of different possibilities, and there's not a clear-cut one. You know, I mean, the Barco false 9 situation, sure, could happen. I think Barco's in that boat that Tito's in to a lesser extent because I don't see Barco playing 120 minutes tonight. I don't think you want him to with games coming up, and I don't know if he's got that in him anyway. So you're going to have to manage his minutes. I think there should be a concern about Pitty Martinez's minutes. So Tito, 45 optimistically. Barco played 60, played 30 in L.A., could he get you to 90? Maybe, but it's on somewhat shorter rest.
Depends on how much effort and work rate is in there.
Well, the intensity is going to be very high. I mean, beyond the effort and work rate that you can't predict, it's going to be intense. So it's going to be it's going to be intense work, no matter what. 90 would feel like a big stretch for Barco. I think 60 is probably more likely. Pitty, can he give you 90 to 120? He might have to. And if that means he's not going to be able to start against New York City, that might just have to be the trade-off you make, with the hope that you get Joseph back for that one. I think Merrim and Pereira become really, really important here. I really do. And more and more you start thinking about it. When you look at that, and it's okay, no Joseph. All right, Tito's limited. Barco, less limited. Pitty, probably less limited than the other two. But all three have limitations, possibly, tonight about getting to the 120. Man, Andrew Carlton could be very important tonight. Very, very important.
Malpinjo. Who else in the Atlanta United organization is the most like Joseph? A goal-seeking missile that is comfortable right in front of goal. Please include candidates both from the top team and the twos.
There's not one. There's just not a like for like. I mean, you look at Jackson Conway with the twos. He's a big body number 9 who's really good playing back to goal and brings others into the game. That's a very different element than you get with Joseph. Brandon Vasquez has some of those similarities, but he's not available due to injury. There's really just not one. You're looking at somebody converted who gives you not as much of the stuff in front of goal, but more of what you've seen from Joseph this year with dropping in the midfield and combining and bringing others into the play. I think Barco can do that. I think Merrim can do that. Those are the ones that you have, contract control over. I don't even want to get into it with Kanekimana because you don't have his contract. He's on loan. So, and we've seen him play at this level for 3 games. So, you gotta be a little bit careful there. Crazier things have happened. We've seen it. I mean, I remember, I want to say it was the League Cup, a player from Manchester United who everybody thought would eventually break through and never did. Federico Macheda, Italian, who was coming out of the reserve team and the youth teams and was a cup hero because they didn't have any other options. And he stepped up and took it. And it never went anywhere else for him, but he'll go down in history as that. Maybe, but I don't think they could even bring Kanekimana up if they wanted to, and I don't think they would have had the time to do it because of just the timelines of everything. So I'm not even going to get into it. Andrew Carlton feels like the one who could take the most with this opportunity. I really do, but like for like replacements with Joseph, there's not one.
Matt Wagner. Match aside, what are your thoughts on Orlando's attempt to blockade tickets to Atlanta United supporters by limiting purchases to Florida residents only? I get it, but is that really good for the game? # Tuesday Thoughts.
I get it, and I don't think Orlando cares if it's good for the game or not. I'm sure, and I don't know the policies. I know in MLS matches there's policies about away fans having access to a certain block of tickets, a certain number. That's spelled out by Major League Soccer. I'm sure there's something comparable in US Open Cup, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's different. So, I mean, you have that element to it, that there is a block of tickets that supporters could get through the club. I know there will be Atlanta United fans there. Beyond that, if Orlando wants to potentially limit the crowd because of it, then, hey, that's their prerogative. And they've been really aggressive in tweeting, hey, tickets, $15, tickets, like it seems like every hour on the hour. So that's their prerogative. It's their game. It's their Open Cup semifinal. They should want it to be as Orlando heavy as possible. I don't have a problem with it. And I don't think the get of the game matters in this. I don't. I think you have your certain limits that you have to hit, and they have to do things according to protocols. Beyond that, they can do what they want.
Jorge B. is predicting a 2-1 dogfight, I assume in 90 minutes. Shiva is hoping
yeah, you
now
assume.
that there's
You never
no
know.
overtime.
But yeah, let's say
Yeah.
2-1 in regulation from Jorge B.
Yeah. So Shiva is now just hoping for no overtime because of NYCFC on the weekend.
That factors in. I mean, the good thing is NYC plays on Thursday. And NYC was tired coming out of Utah. Probably not going to have a heavy week. They're going to play on Thursday. Then they're going to have to recover and then come down to Atlanta on Saturday. It's tough. It's going to be very tough for NYC. But if Atlanta has to go 120, that's going to make it tough for Atlanta on Sunday as well. So you don't want to go 120, but God, it's really feeling like you're going to go 120, doesn't it?
And Katie Weaver has a logistics question for you.
Okay.
She wants to know if you've broken the whiteboard and thrown the magnets across the room yet.
I have not yet. I have a feeling the whiteboard could be in trouble tomorrow with discussion of this one, because there's going to definitely be some whiteboard chronicles about how Frank DeBoer chooses to deal with this, because it's not going to be. I don't think there's any way it could be a traditional format today. I think you're going to have to get a little funky.
Drew Gano says, if ever there was a time for the South American Player of the Year to step up, this is it.
Yep. And look, here's the thing about Pity Martinez. We've talked about it many times. That guy knows how to step up when the lights are bright. He did it in the Libertadores. He converted the penalty that got them to the final in Brazil in stoppage time, I believe. We know what he did in the final. We know what he's done in rivalry matches to Boca over the years. We know what he did to Orlando earlier this season. If we want to go there. This feels like a time for Pitti to really put the team on his back. Somebody's going to have to. If not Pitti, Barco or Merrim or somebody else. Andrew Carlton maybe. Dion Pereira maybe. Could be somebody else. Could be a Franco Escobar. Man, Escobar scored some big goals and big moments for this team. There's a lot of possibilities here, but yeah, somebody's going to have to step up and give you something special. I think we might have lost John as he was trying to get into a better reception area. I will go ahead and start our prediction portion here. We will get a prediction from Doug Robertson today. He's traveling at the moment, wasn't able to join us this morning. We'd actually recorded an interview with him talking about the match, but yeah, things done changed a little bit. So we're going to get an accurate, updated prediction from Doug Robertson today. We'll get John's prediction here in just a second as John rejoins us now. We're getting into the predictions, and we'll get Doug's later. Why don't you kick us off now that you're back with your prediction of Atlanta and Orlando Open Cup semifinal tonight?
Well, Sean Vergara says, hot take LOL, Orlando loses 4-0 after an early red card.
Wouldn't that be so?
And knowing full well what Doug's prediction was before everything happened yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and steal it back.
Well, no, and we're going to make this clear that if Doug sticks with the prediction but maybe changes the narrative a little bit, he had it first.
Okay, fine.
So you would be completely stealing it back because that's what you do. It's 2-1. We already know.
Correct, and it's going to be 120 minutes. No, that's not true.
Okay, that's all you pick 8.5 times out of 10.
That's more accurate.
Well, you're not picking games. You're just picking score lines because you're worried about a trophy more than actually giving the listeners your true and honest thoughts about what will happen in this match. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you what I think is going to happen here. I'm not picking score lines for score lines. I think it's going to go 120 minutes.
I do too.
I think it's going to be gritty. I think it's going to be ugly at times. I think it's going to be feisty.
Yep.
It's not on network TV. I don't know what FCC regulations you're dealing with ESPN Plus, but they might want to have a delay on the crowd mics or not have crowd mics that close to the wall. I'm just saying.
A little spicy.
Yep. You're going to have a lot of emotion in this one. I think you'll have a red card. I think you might have 2 red cards. I don't see this match finishing 11-11. I think it's going to be one of those kind of nights.
I think Jared has Dwyer getting the red and it going penalties, Atlanta winning in penalties with it going 1-1 into penalties.
I think Atlanta does get through here. I don't think it goes to penalties. I think it is an extra time winner from Tito Villalba. Because I think he comes in late. And I think Atlanta comes in and tries to extend the game and tries to ride out the early emotions from Orlando because they're going to come in fired up. They're going to come in with a lot of energy. They might get a goal in the first half. But I think Atlanta's going to want to grow into this game, and they're going to want to wear them down and frustrate them. I think Dwyer eventually gets frustrated and does something stupid. I think Tito Villalba comes in around the hour mark and does get you into extra time, and he ends up getting the goal in extra time for Atlanta to win. What I can't decide, because I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think it's going to be a kind of crazy game emotionally. I don't know if that translates to 1-0 in extra time, which is where my gut's taken me, or if it's going to be weird and crazy and it's going to be like a 3-2. I'm going to go 1-0 extra time Atlanta wins on a Tito Villalba extra time golazo. And then he hikes up his shorts even further and shows everyone his tattoo. And then Dion Pereira comes over and shows off his new lion tattoo, which he has. If you follow him on Instagram, you've seen it. And let's just go ahead and say Pereira assists it, and the lion tamers show off their tattoos and have lots of plastic ware thrown at them from the stands. And we have an Open Cup semifinal that will go down in history. I think that's what we could be looking at here tonight.
I think Miriam gets one tonight. I'm going to go ahead and feed that narrative.
Okay.
Because I want to see what the celebration is.
Oh, I want to see it too. I worry a little bit that the emotion could be a little big for him. I think if he can get it out of his system early and then just play, that he'll be fine. But he's got to manage that. Dwyer's got to manage emotion because he's had problems doing that. Well, no, I mean he's got to find it. Kleshchen's got to do that if he plays. Like there's a lot of questions about those types of situations. Like I think you're gonna. Question? Yes, that was yes. Jeez, good. You're going to have no. Let's get real here because this is
all right.
This is an Open Cup semifinal. This is not a giggle fest. This is not a silly little game. This is a big deal.
Nope.
And that's why I took exception to the point that Joseph played 90 against the Galaxy, and they're not taking this game seriously. Nah, that's not true. This game's going to be very serious, and this game's going to be very intense, and this is not going to be a game that you have seen so far in 2019. This is going to have a Red Bulls feel in the playoffs. This is going to feel kind of nasty. And, yeah, I think Joseph was 100% right when talking about a semifinal, and you play it with a knife between your teeth. That's what it's going to feel like tonight. It's not going to be for the faint of heart. And if you get an Andrew Carlton into this, which I really think you could, I really think you might have to, he's going to have to show you that he can handle that cauldron, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a cauldron for Atlanta United to go into and get a result. And that cauldron just got riled up even more with Joseph Martinez's absence. Orlando's going to look at that, and they're going to feel like that's the door that they needed to have opened. That's what they needed to find a way to win this match. Atlanta's got to shut that door as fast as they can, and they've got to manage the complications of this match, and it's going to be complicated. So what I would tell fans who are watching this or fans who are heading to the stadium tonight, and there are Atlanta United fans going. We know Michael Valverde is going. We know others are going. Josh Airy, I believe, is down there.
Yep.
Don't overreact about the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes, first 30, first 45. This might be one that takes Atlanta some time to grow into because they're going to have to figure out a way to play without Joseph Martinez, something they haven't had to do very much this season. They're going to have to figure out a way to replicate his energy, what he brings, his presence. You know, it's a situation where you see teams who miss players like this in games, and they say afterwards that, you know, the whole time they were playing, they were out there looking for Joseph. Well, you got to get past that point that you're looking for what Joseph would give you, and you're seeing instead what Merrim gives you or what Pitti gives you or what Barco gives you in its place. It's not going to be easy to do straight out of the gate, and I think it will be a slow start for Atlanta, but they've got to manage the emotions of this game, and if that means holding possession a lot longer than normal, if that means cycling possession a lot more than normal to take the heat out of the game, that would be a great strategy to have. I think 1-0 Atlanta in extra time, Pereira to Tito for the winner.
Lion Tamers unite in this case.
Yeah, that's my gut. And if it's Merrim instead and he gets the goal or Atlanta wins big or whatever, I would be very, very happy with it. I'm just not expecting it. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of things to talk about, and we'll be talking about them at 6:30 with our pre-match coverage starting live from the Brewhouse Cafe in Little 5 Points. You can come watch the game with us. After the game, we'll be on for a post-game show, as long as it needs to be. It'll be at least an hour because there will be plenty of things to talk about after an Atlanta-Orlando match. But come on down to the Brew House. Pre-game coverage starts at 6:30. You can listen on the SDH app. You can listen on soccerdownhere.net. You can listen on Spreaker. Watch the game with us. You can hang out for the post-game. You can also listen to the post-game after the game, wherever you're watching it from. Same places, SDH app, soccerdownhere.net, Spreaker. Really looking forward to this. These are the types of games that get you excited. These are the games that are... These are the ones that are special, and hopefully it results in a special memory for Atlanta United and the 17s tonight, because it's going to take something special to get through it without Joseph Martinez. Who's going to step up? We'll find out. But we'll be back in, 7.5 hours, and maybe there's going to be more transfer news by then around the league, because you're less than 48 hours away from the window closing, and you got all kinds of stuff happening. So we'll be back at 6:30 to talk about all of it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for all of the tweets today and all of the workshop session that we did. I'm still thinking Merrim up top instead of Joseph. That's where I'm at. That's my gut feeling right now. We'll see what happens. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha Merrim, y'all.